We'll start off with today, Wayne. Start off at the very beginning on how your journey in education and coaching started and how you got to Morehead State.
I had become good friends with Coach Bob Laughlin's son, Jim Bob. We competed against each other in basketball and golf. He was a year older than I was, and so I really, from the time I was a freshman in high school, had hoped I would be good enough to maybe play basketball at Morehead State University and golf. And that opportunity was made available to me, and I can remember today Coach Laughlin, Mike Dudley, and Sonny Allen sitting in my home in Winchester, Kentucky, after the very first home basketball game against Maysville High School in 1963 of December, and got that scholarship offer. It was a big day for my family.
You came on as a student?
I came as a student in 1964.
What was your major?
I majored in business, and halfway through my junior year I was in business administration, and thought I would go to law school. That was my career path at the time. I was offered a chance by Coach Laughlin, who was the athletic director, to be an assistant coach at Breckenridge Training School. New coach was coming in following Coach Laughlin. I was short, slow, and didn't shoot well enough. So he said, you could really make a contribution there. Fell in love with what I was doing. I was able to work student teaching into my academic schedule, and I graduated from here in '68 and went straight to Pikeville High School as head basketball coach and business and history teacher. I ended up getting a double major.
And how did you transition from coach here?
I was 5 years at Pikeville High School and 4 at Pikeville College. Rejoined Lake Kelly, who had been my assistant coach playing here at Morehead. Had already coached against him as a high school coach where he was at Lafayette High School. Had coached against him at Pikeville College when I was Pikeville College and he was at Austin Peay. He got the head job at Oral Roberts University, so I spent a year there with him, and following that year I became head coach here at Morehead in 1978.
For a long time, you were the last coach to take MSU Eagles to the national championship tournament. Tell me a story about those years.
Well, the NCAA appearances by Morehead State University, the first one was under Coach Laughlin, 1957, I think, and he went again 59 or 60. So it was over 20 years apart then that we went in 1983. We did not win the league that year. We were second, and Murray, who had won the league, very dominating way, really, and got upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament, or the OVC tournament, and so we won that OVC tournament, and the automatic bid then had gone to the tournament winner, not the regular season winner. So we played Syracuse in the first round in Hartford, Connecticut. We had most everybody coming back, and we're anticipating a good year. We got Morehead's first ever 20-win season. I think we were 25-6 in '84. Had a really good team, tough schedule. We played Tennessee, Kansas, we played Louisville, all of them away. And won the regular season, won the tournament, won a first round game against North Carolina A&T on a last second shot. A little historical moment about that game. That was the first game in the history of college basketball where a television monitor was used to determine something. People that watch basketball today would be astonished that it first happened in 1984 because they go to the monitor, it seems like, every other play. The referees were two gentlemen that are still refereeing today, Jim Burr, Tim Higgins, and Mickey Crowley. They used the monitor in the last 7 seconds to get the correct free throw shooter on the line because an assistant coach of ours saw that the other team was putting, frankly, I didn't notice it. He caught it. We got the officials' attention. They went to the monitor. All three of them were suspended from refereeing the entire next year for using that television monitor.
Wow. That's impressive. So, was that the epitome of your coaching career, winning the game in the NCAA tournament, 20-win season? Certainly,
from a measurement standpoint, it's hard to say that playing in the NCAA tournament, winning a game, is not the height. But honestly, probably the second year I was here was a year where I thought we won every game we should have, a few that probably we shouldn't, and didn't lose one that we should have won. And that record was 15-12. So in regard to reaching our maximum potential, I thought that year, the '84 team, and then the very last year I had here, we had a couple of down years after the NCAA run because we graduated 7 people, and the cupboard, it wasn't bare, but it wasn't stocked full of people ready to play. And I might mention that, again, it was almost plus 20 years when Donnie Tyndall came, and likewise, he made 2 NCAA appearances with Moorhead teams. So 3 different coaches over 20 separate years. I'm proud to be among those 2 who I admire so much, both Coach Laughlin and Coach Tyndall.
I found some old footage of Herbie's game record. It's Western Kentucky. Were you around at that time as a player or a coach?
Yes, I got to coach Herbie his senior year, and most people that are somewhat familiar with Moorhead know that he is still today the career leading scorer, I think now, with over 2,000 points. And when you think about that, what's even more amazing, there was no three-point line his entire 4 years of college, and freshmen weren't eligible to play. So he accomplished that in 3 years. Herbie was a gifted shooter and scorer. He got a lot of three-point plays the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to see. Was anything words? Let's talk about Dr. Dorn. Of course, you knew Dr. Dorn from being a student and working your way up. What was it like working with or around athletics with Dr. Dorn?
Well, I never got to work under Dr. Dorn. He had retired by the time I became the head coach. He still had a strong hand in this university, but I can tell you some things as a student that still have never, ever left my memory. And sometimes I can't remember what I did yesterday now, but The very first freshman orientation, these are among the things that he said. Young men, you do not wear a hat inside a building. If you don't like that, there's a bus going east and there's a bus going west. You are welcome to go either way. He and Dr. Bob Martin, during their time, were the strongest two presidents in this Commonwealth. No University of Kentucky president was as strong as those two. Dr. Dorn came out of the legislature to be president as Speaker of the House. His wife was an elegant, wonderful lady with, I guess you would call it a sense of humor. If she played organ at the basketball games, and if the referees, you know, made some bad calls, and even though it was just two referees in, she would start playing Three Blind Mice during the timeout. Some really fine days. I stayed in close contact with Dr. Dorn, and he was a wonderful mentor and advisor to me, as well as many, many people that matriculated through Morehead State University.
Well, here's a question you might not know so much about. Reading through some of Donald Flatt's stuff that's published on the history. He said Dr. Dorn didn't get the credit he deserved for desegregation and diversity that came on campus in the late 50s and into athletics. Did you play with any players? Did you have any dealings in that era that kind of resonated Dr. Dorn's?
Dr. Flatt's comment is accurate, because this university athletically had been desegregated before I became a coach. While I was a student here, 64 through 68, Dr. Marshall Banks was the track coach, and he had been, and I think he was the first African American student and was directly recruited by Dr. Dorn. He was an Ashland, Kentucky native, a tremendous track star, and I think he had been here as a student in the late 50s. I may be off a little bit. While I was in school here, there was that barrier had long been passed. Howard Gray was a great football player from Alabama, and there developed a little pipeline of athletes that and I'm trying to recall who the connection was athletically, but I played with Willie Hobo Jackson, Lamar Green, and Howard Smith. All three and Howard Gray played football. All of them came from the Birmingham, Alabama area.
I read stories in Flatt's work about some of the issues on the road. By the time you were a player, those obstacles for players?
There was never a time that I recall where we were refused service because of the color of our players. I am aware that during that time, and during the 60s, it was tumultuous time in much of the South, and I don't know why or how, but some way Kentucky had gotten way beyond the rest of the South, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that was one of the things, historically, where it's had so many firsts in that area, diversity.
We had the first African American homecoming queen at any college in the university in the Commonwealth.
I've even read that some of the people who left here and gone to school in other institutions were amazed at the difference between Middleton and Morehead versus the cities that they thought were more progressive when they got there.
exactly.
Very impressive. You coached Rocky Atkins. What name you Rocky? Something. I think he said he could actually get us on the state house floor or something. Make it look nice. What can you tell us about Rocky as a student and a player?
Got several. I could talk all day about Rocky Atkins. He was the first player that I signed when I got this job. That was a great moment for me. Rocky was a 5-year player because he had to sit out a year with some serious health issues, and which he has subsequently overcome. And what he did his senior year to play, not many young men would have ever attempted, but because of this health issue he was dealing with in his hips and bones, before every practice and game he had to swim or get in a whirlpool. After every practice or game, he had to get in a pool of ice. He did that his entire 5th year after sitting out the previous year to get to that point. We did not play a single game in his senior year that either he or Jeff Fultz were not the point guard. They pretty much split the time that year. Jeff was a junior, and it was, what I will tell you is that Rocky Atkins was not the greatest athlete, but he made everybody around him better player, better person. But I got to go back to the freshman year, and then I'll take you to the game in the championship of the OVC tournament his senior year. But we had played Indiana. I think it was maybe our 3rd game that year, and we got thrashed pretty good. And post-game radio show, I was leaving the locker room, going back to the floor to do that interview, and I feel somebody or something hitting me on the back. And I turned around, and it's Rocky's mother, and her husband, Jess, is trying to catch up with her. Well, she was hitting me with her umbrella, not viciously, but she wanted my attention. And she said, "I want you to know, young man, I did not send my son all the way over from Sandy Hook, Kentucky to sit on your bench." And then Jess kind of grabbed her, and fast forward now 5 years later, we're post-game celebration in Murray, Kentucky, and Fern comes and said, "Get your butt out here on the dance floor with me." And we were dancing away. The Atkins family holds a special memory in my life, and Rocky's one of the finest human beings there is. His public service to this state has been, and more specifically, his commitment to this part of the state has been of immeasurable value.
Sandy Hook so far.
Yes.
Let's see. Have you always felt that Moorhead and athletics, basketball program, universities always had a special place in your heart?
It has for me. And you know, some of it started not just the friendship with Coach Laughlin's son, but because part of that friendship was we competed in the same region. And Clark County, where I went to high school, was in the 16th region during those years. I mean, I'm talking about the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And so even as a youngster, I had become familiar with Moorhead State University because the 16th region tournament was always held here. And there were other things, other outreaches that Moorhead had. I was on the school yearbook staff, and we came here every year for a seminar in that realm of activity. So yes, I've been very conscious of Morehead and its athletic program, and this institution to my family is pretty special. My brother graduated from here, my sister graduated from here, my brother's wife graduated from here, my wife graduated from here, so it's an institution I owe a great deal to.
So walk us through how you went from being head coach at Morehead State to being television. Is that a transition that was difficult?
Yes, and it wasn't impulsive because Ralph Gabbert, whom was in charge of WKYT, and they had carried our TV show, even though it was produced here at Morehead State University, but they carried it, and I had met him in some member guest golf tournaments where we ended up playing together, and he had the vision to put a television station in Hazard, Kentucky. It's WYMT to this day, and we're your mountain television. And the vision was created from the fact that in surrounding counties touching where Perry County is, 4 different television markets where viewers got their news and information. When I was a student here at Morehead State University, there wasn't any Lexington television station. I mean, it was Huntington, West Virginia. So you had Huntington, West Virginia into Kentucky, some Kentucky counties. You had Bristol, Kingsport, Tennessee into some Kentucky counties, and you had Knoxville, Tennessee into some, and you had Lexington into some. So by putting that television station there in the middle, all of a sudden, Wendell Ford, his term was, it was the greatest thing since roads. Because now school closings were relevant. They weren't talking about Wheelersburg, West Virginia. But so a year before he put that in, he had asked me to consider going there and being a part of that beginning, and I didn't really seriously consider it. I'm not sure to this day what a lot of variables on what made me consider it, but I actually had just prayed about it quite a bit, and I thought maybe my prayer, whether it was answered or not, I think somebody was telling me something. We had been up 18 points at one point in the last game I coached against Austin Peay, against Lake Kelly, in the semifinals of the OVC tournament, and we lost in overtime on a last-second shot, almost from mid-court. And I told my wife that night, I said, I think somebody was telling me something. And I went in to see Dr. Albright, who was then the interim president, whom I dearly loved. And but you know, he was the 4th president that I had worked for, and so there was a lot of transition during my 9 years, and Ralph finally put a financial number. I was making $28,000 here as the head basketball coach, and he made that much more attractive. I said yes, wondering for almost 2 years if I'd made the right decision. Looked at getting back into coaching, but it turned out to be a wonderful thing in my life and for my family.
You eventually went on to KYT.
I did. I actually went to KYT after a little less than 3 years at YMT. I went there as general sales manager. Ralph said, look, I don't want you to come into KYT, go up there, stumble around, figure out a way to make it work. Well, 5 months after I'd been there, he fired the anchor, who was very popular. and the phone lines lit up. You know, mountain folks aren't afraid to tell you what they think, which I love. And the then general manager, he went home. He didn't want to answer, and I was kind of the number 2 guy, and I ended up taking all the calls. And then about a week later, I was asked to replace him, and so I still didn't know my way hardly from the production room to the production truck, and but it's really worked out. But he was a great mentor, and I got the fortunate opportunity to become president and general manager when we were acquired, and Ralph became regional or corporate president to try to grow the company.
Of course, KYT for a while.
90 to 2012.
So what are some of your thoughts on not just basketball here, but some of the sports programs in Oregon State now? There's a variety of sports, different. Thoughts on the sports program?
Well, it's an important part of any academic institution. I truly believe that, and I also, while controversial, I think in football you either need to be Division 1A or you need to be Division 3. I don't think anymore. At the time when 1AA first started, it was really financially feasible, and it made a lot of sense travel-wise. I don't even know who plays in Division 1AA now, and it's such a hybrid, and so you got to do one of the two, and so that's a change, you know, that took place after I had left. I loved the rivalries that existed initially in all sports here, with Eastern, with Western, Murray, and to some extent the OVC was a Tennessee-Kentucky league, and it's gone through such transition from the original days. 1948 was the first year, and that was Eastern, Murray, Western, Louisville, Marshall, and I maybe leave Evansville, to where it is today. But there's been league championships in golf. Dr. Rex Cheney, you know, 36 years coaching golf. What a fantastic job he did. Prior to him in golf, Ed Bignon and Sonny Allen was my golf coach, and so I'm familiar with that athletic area more than others. Been some outstanding track athletes and coaches here. Gosh, Dr. Earl Bentley and some of the football coaches, man, Jake Hallam, and that whole Tom Lichtenberg, who went directly from here to be an assistant at Notre Dame as an offensive coordinator. Bowling, I mean, has been, while not to my knowledge, is it an intercollegiate sport today? It wasn't. Okay. Well, tremendous success there. Cheerleading, it's more athletic than cheerleading anymore, and what Myron Doan did with that is a great source of pride for, I think, any Eagle. I don't know what I'm leaving out from an athletic standpoint, but women's basketball over the years has been really good here, and I think Coach Todd will resurrect that. I sure do.
Here's a kind of a broad question. Just get your take on it. What's Morehead State meant to Eastern Kentucky, and especially both the people of Eastern Kentucky and then from the athletic side, giving some of these kids a chance to go to college?
Yeah.
It's going to be a 100-year history here. Morehead State's been a lot to a lot of folks. What's your thoughts?
I have watched over the years from a student. Probably didn't pay as much attention then, but I was at some graduations, and then later as a staff member, and then of course later as a Board of Regents member on 2 different occasions, and so I've been to a lot of graduations, and one of the things that's always asked, would every student stand up that you're the first generation in your family to receive a college diploma. And I'm pleased to say that that's decreased over the years, but I can tell you from the time when I was here that that number probably was well over 50% of our graduating classes. And I've again often said that Morehead is not just the right place at the right time for a lot of students. In some cases, for Eastern Kentucky youth, it is the only place. It is the only place because geographically, we're homogenous folks in the mountains, and sometimes it takes another step, another transition from home before you're willing to spread your wings. Dr. Dorn, another statement he used to say, he said, you know, you all that have an opportunity to have as a roommate somebody from New York or somebody from elsewhere, you all will each get a better education than you get in any of our classrooms. So I think Morehead over the years has become more diverse, but it's still service. It's a service area. It's an economic driver for this part of the state.
When you were at the helm of WKYT, did you always make sure Morehead got some good coverage, in athletics?
Morehead, it was made clear that we weren't going to miss an opportunity when there was a good story to tell about Morehead. You know, while being in management, you're not directly involved in news. You can't control, and should not, minimizing factual bad news, but I don't recall many things that were of that nature that I had to try to figure out a way, now how can we say this better? But yes, I did, and I was proud one time. We took a photo in front of KYT of the number of Morehead graduates that were at both YMT and KYT, and it was right at 21 people from a total of, at that time there was about, I think, 90 employees at both places. And that was not just because of my affinity for the university, but because of how well prepared the communications majors were from Morehead State University. Like these 2 young men here are getting hands-on experience. And
that's right. Well, what's something about sports here, anything historical that you might know of, sports program, or any good stories from the history of the school that you've known of that you think would be worth mentioning or talking about?
Well, there were, going back to the early days, I'm not sure that many schools had, of this size, had the number of professional athletes that were playing. You had Dan Swartz playing for the Boston Celtics. You had Steve Hamilton, who is still a trivia question, who played both professional basketball and professional baseball for a span of 5 years, playing both. Sonny Allen was a semi-pro baseball player after being Mr. Basketball in Kentucky and leading Breckenridge training to the state tournament. And then in later years, I'm trying to think, I mean, you go, 50 years forward, and the mammal, Kenneth Fareed, what he has done with his career is pretty phenomenal. I would point out from a coaching standpoint, Donnie Tyndall, if you look at Morehead basketball coaches, I can tell you for a fact that he is the only coach, and there's been a lot of good ones, but that has left Morehead, Kentucky, and then reached the high D1 major level coaching. And I mean, he's really brilliant at what he does. One thing that a lot of folks may not recall, but Roy Kidd's first college coaching job was at Morehead State University as an assistant, and now he is a legend in Eastern Kentucky. The stadium's named after him. You look at the football ranks, and John Harbaugh was an assistant coach here and won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. You know, that's pretty impressive. I could probably ramble on and recollect, but those are some that come to my mind quickly.
That's all on the pages here. Any comments, lasting comments you'd like to say about the school or the athletics or your time here?
You know, I've been fortunate, as I said, to be a part of this university in three distinctly different capacities, and I'm just very, very grateful and fortunate for all of those opportunities, and I will forever be grateful for what this institution not only has meant to me and my family, but what it still means and has meant to so many people. Morehead is fortunate today to be under the leadership of Dr. Wayne Andrews. He is in my opinion, the best president in this Commonwealth. Our athletic director, Brian Hutchison, is one of only 40 people in Division I athletics that serves on the NCAA Division I council. So he is a voice that's from Morehead State University that's among those that are the most powerful in the sport. Peggy Osborne, who has been faculty athletic representative here for years and years. What a special person. And she recently received the Thurston Banks Award from the OVC. It's just a really wonderful place.
Well, thank you so much for coming out.
You are welcome.